and welcome to this video. As always, I'm vlogging in the car, and I thought I would just ramble a bit about something that's I have talked about in other videos quite extensively over the last few years, but it's about young people and the whole social media thing, and not actually so young people all the time, but from a psychological point of view, I think it's actually really quite worrying seeing where social media is taking people. Okay, and I'm going to explain this. I remember when, I've been using a mobile phone for a long time, since like the 80s, when they were great big block things, the 80s and the 90s, and a phone was just literally an address book, and a phone, and you could do texting came on it as well. I think that came later on, and that was pretty much it until the introduction of smartphones, and then things sort of rapidly changed. Smartphones were obviously allowed to connect. They then started connecting to the internet. They could do videos, they could take pictures, they could start doing. I saw all this coming with phones that could do things like, I remember, phones started playing radio, for instance, and then you could send multimedia messages, MMSs, do you remember all those? And then there was the whole texting thing, and social media, in effect, if you like, really started with that. We had the internet, which was kind of separate, and the social media side of the internet was pretty clunky. It was pretty bad, very clunky, but it was there, and I can even remember from the days of dial-up and bulletin board systems, there were trolls on those things. They were horrible people, and it always seems to have attracted these really nasty, just horrible people that used to just say really nasty stuff. And there was some pretty nasty stuff going around as well. But and then, of course, when the smartphone technology came in, it kind of changed. And I remember when that happened, and I remember saying at the time to my wife that people are going to get hooked. Yeah, they're going to get so absorbed in this device that they could hold that allowed them to do pretty much everything, like, watching TV. So all of the separate things. Okay, so TV was a separate thing, the internet was a separate thing, your computer was a separate thing, your phone was a separate thing, your landline was a separate thing, You're taking photographs, and video was a separate thing, and even taking videos and taking photographs were two separate things years ago. Back in the day. You had to have a video camera and you had to have a stills camera. And what we're seeing now is a whole merge. I've been involved in the IT industry to see this coming for a long time. But it really is becoming merged all together. All the technology and everything is merged together, and now we've got this amazing device. I wouldn't really even call it a phone anymore. We still call it a mobile phone. It's everything that people use is now on this device. Camera sales have depleted, video camera sales have depleted, I would imagine that in the future, I mean, we've seen the computer technology change rapidly from big clunky computers with big monitors, which I think will still be around for quite a long time, but I think the majority of people actually won't use those anymore. I think they will just have a tablet or one single device which will just basically do everything, and in addition to that, you will have a mobile device which you will carry around with you, which does everything for you as well. So you can watch your TV, watch your videos, get your email, take photographs, do video, and all of that we can do now. I mean, it's amazing technology. If it's used well, it's amazing technology. But I think we have generations of young people who are growing up thinking that this is everything. This device is everything. Okay? It provides everything. It provides all the entertainment. Now, I'm not going to start going down the route of blaming parents, but I am going to mention that I think the technology, and I dare say anyone watching this video can relate to this, where to keep a child quiet and entertained, you've seen a parent giving them a tablet or their phone to keep them quiet because they don't want to interact with the child, or they're too busy doing something else, so they give the child something to pacify them. And it tends to be a tablet or a device of some sort, that the child can be entertained on. Now, if a child's grown up with that, they then rely on these devices. And this is what I'm seeing now is, I've seen sort of, if you like, the previous generation get hooked on the technology, but we've now got a generation, let's say, this generation of let's say from 2010 onwards, we've now got a generation of young people who have grown up with these things from babies. I've seen parents giving 2-year-olds a device. They've got their own tablet, they've got their own phone, they've got their own iPod, they've got their own TV or whatever it is, and I think it's worrying. I think it's worrying from a social point of view when people are when young people are wrapped up in the fact that their social network relies on possibly a handful of friends and 10,000 people that they don't even know on a device through apps. And I think it's worrying. And they're emotionally hooked into this device. They're driven by this device, by reacting and social media and everything that goes along with the apps that they're using. And it's the feedback, the kind of narcissistic behavior that's being ingrained in young people, where they're obsessed with taking photographs of everything around, what they're eating, what they're drinking, who they're with, what they're wearing, what they're not wearing half the time, things like that, and having to post this. It's normal to post this on social media so that thousands of people all over the world, people that they've never even known, never met, probably never will meet, get to see their intimate side of their fake life, as it were, and comment on it. And these kids are getting, these young people are getting feedback on it and basing their emotional state, as it were, on feedback from people that they don't even know. I mean, I personally think it's worrying, and I'm seeing more and more where, and I've got a young, my youngest daughter. I'm seeing it in her. Thankfully, she's kind of bright enough to realise not to get too sucked into it so much, but she's still in that matrix. She's still in that inner circle, as it were, of social media brainwashing that I believe is really, really worrying. And I don't know what it's going to be like in the future for these young people, because they do believe. And I've had some interactions recently in the last sort of 6 months with having to deal on a business level with somebody who also is a youngish person, previous generation, let's say, who's grown up with the technology, and they believe that everything comes from their phone. You see, everything, their phone is the center of their life. And they're trying to run a business, they're trying to, and I'm seeing health deteriorate rapidly, and I think also psychologically, because you can't do everything on this device. You need to interact with the world, you need to interact with people, and it's there's lots of other psychologists I've seen saying much the same thing. I've also seen a physiologist who was also really worried, and I did post that on our Facebook page, who was also worried from a physiological point of view, with kids that are spending many hours of the day with their neck pointed downwards, hanging down, and if from a very early age they're spending large amounts of time looking down at a screen all the time, it's going to have a massive effect on the muscles in their neck and their bone structure and all of those other things. And I just thought that video was mind-blowing. I just think it may not affect them right now, but I think later in life it's going to seriously affect the young people now, in the future. From a psychological point of view, from a sociological point of view, and from a physiological point of view. I think it's just going to be like a triple whammy that's going to happen with young people in the future, and that needs to be dealt with somehow. It's all rather worrying, I think, really. Anyway, I didn't want this to be a depressive, but just more of a kind of an observational feedback, really, about my, where I've seen things happen in the last 20 years. And I think it's worrying. I think it's really worrying. Please do pop by our Facebook page and, provide feedback and comments and such like, if you have any. And we'd love to see you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you again soon in another video.